When the northern section broken flag was brought back to the Arrow Tower, wind rose across the entire northern section of the outer wall. The wind blew from outside the wall into the wall. It was like a gap that had not closed for years had finally waited for the thing that belonged in its place. Han Gong stood at the highest point of the Arrow Tower. The outer wall commandant stood in the direction of the mustering platform. The archer unit remnant souls, the wall patrol soldier souls, and the wounded soldier souls all looked toward that tattered flag. Lin Yao held the flag in both hands and did not insert it back directly, because returning the flag to its place also required procedure. Gao Mu said in a low voice, "Ask the flag position first." Lin Yao looked toward the outer wall commandant. Where was the original position of the northern section broken flag? The outer wall commandant raised his hand and pointed toward a broken flag base beside the Arrow Tower. The flag base had already cracked open. Its surroundings were covered with saber marks. A Shen family craftsman stepped forward to inspect it. The flag base is too badly damaged. If the flag is inserted directly, it will not be stable. Zhao Tai immediately asked, "Can it be repaired?" The craftsman nodded. "It can, but it needs Yao iron or old soldier iron for reinforcement." Everyone looked toward Lin Yao. This was a resource expense. If Obsidian Village used its own Yao iron, that meant paying another cost. Shen Shinzhou spoke. The Shen family can provide iron materials. Lin Yao glanced at him. Record it in the account. Shen Shinzhou nodded. Record it in the account. After coming this far, he had also begun to grow used to Lin Yao's method. It was not that external forces were forbidden from contributing anything, nor that whoever contributed something immediately obtained control. All expenses entered the account. All contributions were recorded. Settlement would be discussed afterward. This method was troublesome, but stable. The Shen family craftsman and Li Shu of Obsidian Village repaired the flag base together. Gao Mu personally supervised the military patterns. Su Qingli assisted in identifying the old talismans on the flag base. Bai Ji was responsible for clearing the black resentment moss around the flag base. Shu He led the Dragon Court players to guard the perimeter. During the repair process, low-level bone resentments kept crawling up from outside the wall, trying to stop the broken flag from returning to its place. But after the northern section Arrow Tower had been repaired, the archer unit remnant souls could already provide a small amount of automatic support. Whenever bone resentments approached, 1 or 2 soul arrows would shoot down from the Arrow Tower. There were not many, but they were enough to reduce the pressure. This made everyone understand even more clearly. Restoring the bows had not been wasted effort. The outer wall's 3 lacks were connected to one another. First, restore grain to stabilize army morale. Then restore bows to gain support. Finally, restore the flag to gain protection. If the order had been wrong, the difficulty would have been much higher. After the flag base was repaired, the outer wall commandant walked to the front of the base. Han Gong also came down from the Arrow Tower. His remnant soul had not fully left the Arrow Tower. It was only a projection. The 2 military souls looked at Lin Yao at the same time. One who returns the flag, report the order. Holding the northern section broken flag, Lin Yao spoke. Obsidian Village holds the outer wall passage token. Grain has been restored. Bows have been repaired. Enemy resentment has been removed. Today, we return the northern section broken flag. The outer wall commandant asked, "To whom does the flag return?" This question was crucial. If he answered that it returned to Obsidian Village, the outer wall military souls might resent it. If he answered that it returned to Blackstone Stronghold, Obsidian Village's contribution might be swallowed by the old orders. Lin Yao answered, "The flag returns to the northern section. The northern section belongs to the outer wall. The old orders of the outer wall have been clarified and are bound by the Guardian General's order to seal the soldier's tomb. Obsidian Village continues this order and does not seize this flag. The eye flames of the outer wall commandant stabilized. Han Gong's remnant soul lowered its head. Approved. Lin Yao inserted the broken flag into the flag base. The old soldier iron beneath the flag base and the newly reinforced materials lit up at the same time. The tattered flag cloth unfurled. Although it was still broken, it no longer looked as decayed as before. It once again became the military order marker of the northern section arrow tower. The entire northern section of the outer wall gave off a deep rumble. One broken flag after another along the wall lit with faint light. The system prompt rang out. 3 of the outer wall's 3 lack of flag, restored. Northern section broken flag of the outer wall has returned to its place. All 3 lacks of the outer wall have been restored. Outer wall order restored, 27%-41%. Northern section arrow tower, wall patrol soldiers, and wounded soldiers camp have recovered basic linkage. Second wall gate seal has loosened. Everyone finally let out a breath. But at that moment, a heavy sound came from the depths of the outer wall. Boo! 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 It was as if some enormous mechanism had been awakened. The outer wall commandant raised his head. Second wall gate. It can open. Lin Yao looked toward the quest panel. Outer wall phase quest, restore the outer wall's 3 lacks, completed. You have obtained further recognition from the outer wall commandant. You have obtained northern section archer unit support permission, permanent low grade. You have obtained outer wall 3 lacks settlement authority. The second wall gate will open in 1/4 of an hour. Warning, after the second wall gate opens, the outer wall Guardian General token fragment event will be triggered. 1/4 of an hour. Everyone immediately began to rest. Bai Ji treated the wounded Shen family guard. Dragon Court's squad inspected their shields again. The Shen family craftsmen sorted their tools. Zhao Tai sat against the wall and rubbed his shoulder. I understand now. Chen Hao asked, understand what? The most tiring part of this place is not fighting. It is that before you do anything, you have to explain the reason first. Chen Hao laughed. You finally understand Lin Yao's world. Zhao Tai looked toward Lin Yao. Does the Lord's mind not get tired every day? Lin Yao happened to hear him and answered, it does. Zhao Tai froze. Lin Yao continued, but if I do not want my mind to get tired, then everyone else will have to fill the gap with their lives. Zhao Tai fell silent. Those words were heavy. He had once thought a lord simply issued orders. Only now did he slowly begin to understand how many people could die because of one wrong order. The grain supervising officers lied that grain had run out. The supervising officer's unauthorized private order. The outer wall commandant's severed head. The people who had starved to death in the military grain cellar. The archer unit that had run out of arrows at the northern section arrow tower. All of these were consequences of wrong orders. Shen Xianzhou stood nearby and heard those words. He did not speak. But something changed deep in his eyes. Did financial group decisions also kill people? In the past, he might have treated that question as corporate management. Resource input. Losses. Risk. Return. But in era of the divine realms, those numbers had become real people, real resentment, and real military order backlash. A lord was not simply an operator. A lord was the one who bore responsibility. The quarter hour passed quickly. The outer wall commandant led the team to the second wall gate. The second wall gate was located deep inside the inner side of the outer wall. It was smaller than the first military gate, but much heavier. The Guardian General's seal was carved into the gate. In front of the gate stood a stone platform. On the stone platform lay a black token fragment. Lin Yao recognized it at a glance. It was the Guardian General token fragment. But around the token fragment were 3 locks. The flag lock, the bow lock, the grain lock. After the 3 locks of the outer wall were restored, the 3 locks were opening one by one. The first, the grain lock opened. The second, the bow lock opened. The third, the flag lock opened. The token fragments slowly rose. The outer wall commandant walked to the front of the stone platform and saluted the token fragment. The 3 locks of the outer wall have been restored. The commandant's beheading has been clarified. The supervising officer's private order has been judged. Please let the Guardian General token return to the one who continues the order. The token fragment flew toward Lin Yao. Lin Yao reached out and caught it. You have obtained Blackstone Guardian General Token Fragment 2. Current Guardian General Token Fragments 2/. Completeness of the military order to seal the soldier's tomb has increased. Lost Stronghold Outer Wall phase completed. Joy appeared on everyone's faces. They had finally obtained it. But in the next second, the second wall gate suddenly trembled. A large amount of black mist seeped out through the gap. The outer wall commandant's expression changed sharply. Retreat! Within the black mist, a pitch-black hand suddenly reached out through the gate crack. That hand did not resemble a soldier's soul. Nor did it resemble a person. Its joints were twisted, and it was covered in black scales. Cao Mu's pupils contracted. Black tide. System warnings flashed wildly. Second wall gate seal has loosened. Black tide remnants are seeping out. Emergency event, guard the gate. Objective, stop the black tide remnants from breaking through the second wall gate. Lin Yao tightened his grip on the Guardian General token fragments, his face sinking. Obtaining the token did not mean the outer wall was over. The things truly sealed behind the second wall had begun crawling out. The instant the black tide remnant reached out its hand, the entire outer wall area seemed to be swept by a cold and malicious will. It was not ordinary ghost resentment. Nor was it the remnant will of war souls. It was more chaotic. More ravenous. More like something that wanted to devour military orders, devour soul fire, and devour all order. The second wall gate shook violently. From behind the gate came dense scratching sounds. It was as if countless things were crawling behind the door. The outer wall commandant drew his saber and roared, "Guard the gate!" The soul fire of the northern section arrow tower lit up. The wall patrol soldiers' souls formed ranks again. Even the remnant souls inside the wounded soldiers' camp struggled to rise. The outer wall order that had just recovered to 41% was fully mobilized at this moment. Lin Yao immediately understood that restoring the outer wall's 3 locks had not simply been for opening the gate and taking the token. It had also been for this moment of guarding the gate. If grain had not been restored, the soldiers' souls would have no strength. If the bows had not been repaired, the arrow tower could not provide support. If the flag had not been returned, the northern section military order could not be mobilized. Once the black tide remnants seeped out, the entire outer wall might collapse again. Lin Yao shouted his orders. Everyone, fall back to the defensive line in front of the second wall gate. Shield fighters in front. New assault recruits guard the center. Dragon Court protects the left. The Shen family protects the right. The Su family and Bai Ji fall back, handle injuries and seal inscriptions. Do not let the black tide remnants leave the 30-step zone in front of the gate. The temporary military order of the Obsidian Flag lit up. This time, no one objected. Even the Shen family players obeyed immediately. Because everyone could see that this was not the time to negotiate profits. If the gate broke, everyone would die. The first black tide remnant crawled halfway out from the gate crack. It was humanoid, but its back was arched, its limbs twisted, and its face had no features, only a black mouth split all the way toward its ears. Dragon Court's archer fired first. The arrow sank into its shoulder, but seemed to be swallowed by black mud, causing only a faint pause. A Shen family guard threw a short spear that pierced its chest. The black tide remnant continued crawling outward. Galmu said in a low voice, "Attack the joints." Lin Yao confirmed it with civilization analysis. Black tide remnant. Traits: devours soul power, weak physical pain sense, contaminates military orders. Weaknesses: joint black cores, soulfire arrows, Yao iron weapons, guardian general token suppression. Joints. Lin Yao immediately shouted. Zhao Tai charged forward with his saber and slashed toward the black tide remnant's left arm joint. The blade, repaired with old soldier iron, cut into the black tide flesh and released an acrid black smoke. It worked! But the black tide remnant struck back with one claw and nearly tore open Zhao Tai's chest. Li Feng and Wang Shan thrust their spears at the same time, pinning its other arm in place. This was Lu Shi's first formal battle. His face was pale, but he still held the formation. He gave a low roar. "Eat military grain, guard military grain." Those words were crude. But he really held. Galmu cut into the black core at the black tide remnant's knee with one slash. The black tide remnant let out a shrill howl. The northern section arrow tower also shot a soul arrow, striking the back of its neck. Zhao Tai seized the chance and cut off its head with one strike. The black tide remnant turned into a pool of black mist. But inside the gate crack, more black hands reached out. The second. The third. The fourth. They kept crawling out. And every time one appeared, it contaminated the surrounding military order. After some outer wall patrol soldier souls approached, their movements began to slow, and their eye flames turned black. The outer wall commandant roared, "Fall back! Suppress with the arrow tower!" Although these outer wall soldier souls could fight, their resistance to black tide contamination was not strong. Instead, the living team under the temporary military order of the Obsidian Flag had more flexibility. After Shen Xianzhou noticed this, he immediately adjusted. Shen family fire oil. The Shen family players threw fire oil bottles toward the black tide gathering area in front of the gate. Flames exploded. The black tide remnants were forced back for an instant. Su Qingli immediately shouted, "The fire cannot burn the gate. If it burns the seal, the gate will loosen further." Shen Xianzhou immediately changed his order. Fire oil only seals the two sides. Do not hit the gate crack. This was the value of a multi-party team. The Shen family had supplies. The Su family understood seals. Dragon Court could fight. Obsidian Village could unify military orders. If every faction had fought on its own, they would already have fallen into chaos. But now, they had been pressed into a temporary team by the temporary military order of the Obsidian Flag. More and more black tide remnants appeared. The gate crack was also being forced wider. Lin Yao took out the two Guardian General token fragments. The moment the token fragments appeared, the screams of the black tide behind the gate became clearly sharper. They were afraid. Or rather, they hated the power of the Guardian General token. Lin Yao asked the outer wall commandant, "How do we suppress the gate?" The outer wall commandant answered, "Guardian General token. Outer wall flag. Northern section bows. Military grain account." The four suppressed together. Lin Yao understood instantly. This was the system testing everything he had restored before. The Guardian General token fragments were the main suppression. The outer wall flag had returned to its place. The northern section archer unit had been repaired. The military grain accounts had been restored. Only with all four could they suppress the second wall gate again. Lin Yao shouted, "Han Gong!" A response came from the direction of the arrow tower. Northern section archer unit stands ready. Suppress the gate crack. Soul arrows fired in unison, all nailing into the black tied arms around the second wall gate. The outer wall commandant raised the military order projection of the northern section broken flag. Outer wall northern section, guard the gate. The patrol soldiers' souls formed ranks again. They no longer approached the black tide, but stabilized the military order around the perimeter. Lin Yao took out the outer wall temporary account from when they had restored the grain. Military grain has been restored to the outer wall defenders. Those guarding the gate have grain. Those guarding the gate have names. The military grain account lit with faint golden light. The eye flames of those outer wall soldiers' souls stabilized again. Finally, Lin Yao raised the two Guardian General token fragments. Wei Qingshan's Guardian General order, the order to seal the soldier's tomb is not complete. Second wall gate, do not open. The Guardian General token fragments erupted with black light. The second wall gate trembled violently. The black tide remnants inside the gate crack let out ear-piercing screams and squeezed outward madly. They knew that once the gate was sealed again, they would be sealed back inside. The most dangerous wave had arrived. More than 10 black tide remnants charged out of the gate crack at the same time. Zhao Tai, Li Feng, Wang Shan, and Lu Shi formed a small assault formation and held the very front with all their strength. Dragon Court shield fighters reinforced the left. The Shen family guards reinforced the right. Chen Hao constantly cut through black tide joints from the flank. Shu He led people to deal with the remnants that leaked through. Bai Ji and Su Qingli rapidly treated black tide contamination wounds in the rear. One Shen family player was grabbed by the leg by a black tide remnant and nearly dragged toward the gate crack. He cried out in terror. "Save me!" Zhao Tai was closest to him. This Shen family player had repeatedly shown dissatisfaction with Obsidian Village's military orders before. Zhao Tai had no fondness for him. But at this moment, he hesitated for only half an instant before cutting off the black tide arm, grabbing the man with one slash. Then he pulled him back. "If you entered the roster, do not die in such an ugly way." The Shen family player collapsed to the ground, his face deathly pale. For the first time, he truly understood that the temporary roster of the Obsidian Flag was not a joke. One who entered the roster, even if he was an outsider, guarded the gate together under the flag. Lin Yao saw this, and something shifted in his heart. The temporary military orders of the Obsidian Flag had more binding power than he had imagined. At the moment of life and death, this shared roster could make people from originally different factions produce a brief sense of common body. This was the power of a military flag. But the black tide remnants were still charging. The seal of the second wall gate was once forced open wide enough for two black tide remnants to crawl out at the same time. Lin Yao felt the Guardian General token fragments burning in his hand. His war soul protection was also pushed to its limit. Suddenly, the faint golden thread in his palm, the one that symbolized public distribution, lit up. A thought surfaced. The black tide was contaminating military orders. But what it feared most was a clear chain of responsibility and stable order. These things were exactly the core Obsidian Village had been building all along. Lin Yao unfolded the temporary roster of the Obsidian Flag, the outer wall grain account, the northern section archer unit roster, and the outer wall soldier roster all at once. The roster is here. The grain account is here. The flag order is here. The Guardian General order is here. The black tide is nameless. It may not enter the roster. It may not cross the wall. Those words were like a judgment. The black tide's nature was chaotic, nameless, unrecorded, and without orders. But the outer wall had now been restored with name, grain, flag, and order. Order formed suppression against chaos. A system prompt surfaced. Obsidian Village concepts with names and grain has its account have produced suppression against black tide remnants. Outer wall seal stability increased. Everyone immediately felt the pressure lighten. The outer wall commandant seized the chance and roared, "Close the gate." The northern section archer unit fired its final round of soul arrows. The new assault recruits pushed forward together. Shen family fire oil sealed both sides. Dragon Court shield fighters shoved the final few remnants back into the gate crack. Lin Yao pressed the Guardian General token fragments onto the seal on the gate. Boom! The second wall gate slammed shut. All black tide screams were locked behind the gate. The entire outer wall fell into dead silence. After a moment, the system prompt rang out. Emergency event, guard the second wall gate, completed. Black tide remnants have been temporarily sealed back behind the second wall. Lost Stronghold Outer Wall order restored, 41%-52%. Prestige of the Obsidian Flag temporary military order increased. Participating teams have obtained Blackstone Wasteland reputation. Obsidian Village has obtained second wall seal mark. Almost everyone let out a breath at the same time. Several players sat directly on the ground. The Shen family player Zhao Tai had lowered his head and said nothing for a long time. Finally, he walked to Zhao Tai and said quietly, "Just now, thanks." Zhao Tai carried his saber and snorted. "Do not misunderstand. I was guarding the roster." That player froze for a moment. Then he nodded. "I will remember that." Shen Shenzhou stood not far away, watching this scene with a deep gaze. What he saw was not simply someone saving someone else. It was the Obsidian Flag pulling external personnel into temporary order. If this ability synchronized with reality in the future, it would be extremely frightening. It did not buy loyalty with money. It built a temporary community through shared crisis and recognized rules. That was exactly what financial groups lacked most. The outer wall commandant walked in front of Lin Yao. This time, he did not salute coldly. Instead, he formally knelt on one knee. Outer wall commandant acknowledges the Obsidian Flag's merit in guarding the gate. The second wall gate did not open. The black tide did not emerge. The Guardian General token fragment may return. From the direction of the mustering platform, a beam of black light flew over and landed in Lin Yao's hand. "You have obtained second wall seal mark. You have obtained outer wall gate guarding merit record. You have obtained black tide remnant sample. Main quest updated, Soldier's Tomb seal crisis confirmed." Description: a black tide source flow exists behind the Soldier's Tomb. The military order to seal the Soldier's Tomb is not empty words. Lin Yao looked at the final prompt, his heart heavy. Previously, everyone knew the Soldier's Tomb was dangerous. But that danger had always been vague. Now that black tide remnants had crawled out from behind the second wall, it proved that if the Soldier's Tomb seal broke, what would be released would not only be Warsoul troops and treasure. There would also be a black tide capable of contaminating military orders and devouring order. Once this news spread, it would produce two results. The cautious would retreat. The greedy would want even more to know what was hidden behind the black tide. And most often, there were more of the latter. The outer wall exploration team began withdrawing. This mission could not continue deeper. The team had many wounded, and their supplies had been heavily consumed. More importantly, the black tide behind the second wall gate proved that the danger level deeper inside the outer wall exceeded their estimates. Before returning to Obsidian Village, Lin Yao carried out settlement at the Outer Wall exit. The Shen family, Dragon Court, and the Su family all obtained corresponding reputation and material rewards. But the Guardian General token fragment, the second wall seal mark, and sovereignty over the Outer Wall soldier roster copy belonged to Obsidian Village. Shen Xianzhou did not argue. At least this time, he did not. Because everyone knew that if not for the roster, grain account, and military orders of the Obsidian Flag suppressing the situation just now, the second wall gate might already have been broken. Before leaving the Outer Wall Commandant said to Lin Yao, "The Outer Wall can temporarily hold. But behind the second wall, the black tide still moves. If you wish to seal the soldier's tomb, gather the Guardian General token. Repair the War Soul altar. Raise a higher military flag. Otherwise, do not enter the deep walls." Lin Yao nodded. "I will remember." When everyone walked out of the black mist, it was already deep night. In the direction of Obsidian Village, the Obsidian Flag still unfurled in the wind. Its light was steadier than before they had departed. A system prompt surfaced. Lost Stronghold Outer Wall exploration completed. Obsidian Village has obtained leadership over the Outer Wall phase. Blackstone Wasteland Regional main quest progress has increased. World synchronization rate has fluctuated slightly. When Lin Yao saw the final line, his eyes narrowed. The world synchronization rate again. This time, he did not inspect it immediately. Because he knew that after logging out and returning to reality, he might see new changes again. And this time, what synchronized might not only be institutions. It might also be military orders. Flags. Even the shadow of the black tide. When Lin Yao logged out, the sky in reality was still not bright. The equipment pods slowly opened. His consciousness withdrew from era of the divine realms and returned to the narrow room of his rental apartment. The sound of the air conditioner was very soft. A little city night light seeped in through the gap in the curtains. His phone lay on the table, its screen constantly lighting up because of unread messages. If this had been a few days ago, the first thing he would have done after logging out was probably drink water, rub his eyes, and check the forums. But this time, he did not move. Because he felt his palm burning. Lin Yao slowly raised his right hand. Deep in his palm, an extremely faint dark red pattern surfaced. It was not a wound. Nor was it a light effect. It was more like a flag mark branded into his consciousness. When he focused his attention, a familiar yet chilling prompt surfaced before his eyes. World synchronization rate, 0.08%. Synchronization items being detected. War Soul protection, weak synchronization. Public distribution, weak synchronization. Obsidian Flag temporary military order, extremely weak synchronization. Lin Yao's pupils constricted slightly. The military order had truly synchronized. He stood up and walked to the desk. On the desk were several books, a notebook, a charger, half a bottle of water, and a few delivery receipts. There were not many things, but it was messy. Yet at this moment, as Lin Yao looked at the desk, he suddenly had a strange feeling. He could clearly judge which things should not be there. It was not an obsession with cleanliness. It was a sense of order. The position, use, ownership, and priority of the objects became clearer in his eyes than usual. He picked up his notebook and flipped to the previous page. Written on it were: synchronization is not limited to individual abilities. Systems, concepts, and territory traits may also synchronize. Value of the Lord route reassessed upward. Priority of Obsidian Village institutional construction increased. Avoid exposing synchronization abilities in reality. Lin Yao held his pen and added another line beneath. Military orders have begun to synchronize. When he wrote those words, the dark red pattern in his palm warmed faintly. The next second, an even finer line of text surfaced before his eyes. Obsidian Flag Temporary Military Order, Current Synchronization Effect. In small-scale cooperative scenarios, if participants clearly accept shared rules, it can very weakly improve one's perception of team order, rule violation tendencies, and responsibility distribution. Lin Yao was silent for a long time. This ability was still not the sort of exaggerated supernatural power like fireballs, lightning, or flying swords. It was more like leadership intuition. If a group of people jointly accepted rules, he could more easily sense who was wavering, who wanted to undermine the rules, who had taken responsibility, and who was only obeying on the surface. It did not seem strong. But if placed in a real team, an organization, a refuge point, or even among crowds in future chaos, its value would be extremely high. Combat ability could kill one enemy. Order ability could stabilize a group of people. Lin Yao was becoming more and more certain that the true danger of Era of the Divine Realms was not that it made people stronger. It was that it would gradually bring certain orders, authorities, and organizational abilities formed inside the game back into reality. If a lord built a violent plundering system inside the game, then what synchronized into reality in the future might be a real-world plundering group. If a guild built a financial group control structure, then after reality synchronization, it might become a supernatural corporate warlord. The path Obsidian Village was walking now was public accounts, rosters, military orders, and the dead having names. This path was slow. It was troublesome. But when reality truly became chaotic, it had a chance to become an order that allowed people to survive. His phone vibrated. Shen Hao sent a message. Shen Hao, have you logged out? Lin Yao replied. I have. Shen Hao called him directly. Lin Yao answered. On the other end of the phone, Shen Hao's voice was very low. Do you feel anything wrong? Yes. I just logged out and found that the muscle response in my arm feels strange. Strange how? I tested a basic block from the military formation with a wooden stick. Shen Hao took a deep breath. Lin Yao, it is not psychological. I really can use a tiny bit of the movement rhythm from inside the game. There are no skill effects, but my body remembers. Lin Yao asked, are you tired? Very tired. My arm is sore, and my mind feels heavy. It is like the training inside the game was brought back into reality, but my real body cannot keep up. This point was very important. Synchronization was not obtained for free. The real body would bear pressure. Lin Yao said, do not keep testing. I know. I only wanted to confirm it. Shen Hao paused for a moment, and his tone became even more serious. There is one more thing. Say it. The classmate at our school who went into a coma still has not woken up. Lin Yao's gaze sank. What does the hospital say? There is no major problem with his body, and no obvious brain damage. But he just will not wake up. His family is making noise now, and the school is suppressing the news. There are more similar cases on the forums. Lin Yao opened his computer and entered several player forums. Sure enough, there were many more related discussions than yesterday. Is the official side deliberately hiding comas after game deaths? My friend was killed by a monster in the Olympus region, and after logging out, he developed a high fever. In the Japanese ninja region, a player's real arm developed black spots after death in the game. Someone in the Three Kingdoms region brought a copper coin out of the game? True or fake? Official deletion speed is very fast. Preserve screenshots. Lin Yao clicked into one post. The original poster claimed that his friend had obtained a low-grade copper coin inside the game, and after logging out, something similar to a copper piece appeared in his hand, but vanished after a few minutes. Some people below cursed it as fake, while others posted blurry photos. The photo was very unclear. But as Lin Yao looked at that copper piece, he felt uncomfortable. If items were beginning to appear briefly, that meant although the synchronization rate was only 0.08%, it was no longer stopping at perception and movement memory. The signs of material synchronization had also appeared. Shen Hao asked over the phone, "What about your side? What's synchronized?" Lin Yao did not say everything. He only said, "A little of the Obsidian Flag's military order perception came back." The other end of the phone fell silent. After a few seconds, Shen Hao said, "That sounds more like a leadership skill than my slashing." "It is not a skill." "Then what is it?" Lin Yao looked at the dark red pattern in his palm. "Responsibility." Shen Hao did not immediately joke. He knew Lin Yao was not pretending. These past few days, he had personally watched Obsidian Village grow from a broken village into a territory with a flag, soldiers, grain accounts, and institutions. He had also seen the pressure Lin Yao carried every time he made a judgment. "What do we do next?" Lin Yao answered, "Obsidian Village needs to accelerate reorganization. The War Soul altar has to be repaired. Outer Wall sentry points have to be built. We also have to prepare for the first season, no, the first phase to close." Shen Hao froze for a moment. "What first phase?" Lin Yao looked at the growing number of abnormal cases on the forum. "The world is going to change. Before it truly becomes public, we need to at least turn Obsidian Village into a base that can withstand the change." Shen Hao said in a low voice, "You really are sounding more and more like a lord." Lin Yao did not deny it. After the call ended, he looked at the city outside the window. The convenience store downstairs was still lit. Occasionally, scooters passed on the road. Everything looked normal. People who needed to go to work would still go to work. Students would still attend class. The news was still reporting technological breakthroughs, gaming fever, and rising stock prices. But Lin Yao knew the cracks had already appeared. Most people simply had not seen them yet. He lowered his head and wrote a new plan in his notebook. First phase objectives. 1. Post-battle reorganization of Obsidian Village. 2. Outer Wall sentry point. 3. War Soul altar repair prerequisites. 4. Confirm whether black tide contamination can synchronize with reality. 5. Avoid exposure of real identity. When he wrote the fifth point, his phone suddenly received an unfamiliar email. The sender was blank. The subject contained only one line. "Lord of Obsidian Village, are you willing to join the Reality Observation Project?" Lin Yao's eyes instantly turned cold. His real identity had already been targeted. Lin Yao stared at that email and did not click it open immediately. The sender field was blank. It was not that no display name appeared. Rather, the entire field seemed to have been erased somehow. But the subject was terrifyingly precise. "Lord of Obsidian Village, are you willing to join the Reality Observation Project?" The other party knew he was the Lord of Obsidian Village. That was a serious problem. At present, the game announcement displayed Obsidian Village, not Lin Yao's real name. The Shen family, the Su family, and Dragon Court knew Lin Yao's game identity, but they might not know his real identity. Shen Hao knew, but he could not possibly leak it. Then where had this email come from? The official side? The government? A financial group? Or some hidden family? Lin Yao did not open the email attachment on his own computer. He first took screenshots, then switched his network to his phone hotspot and opened the email body in an isolated browser. The content was very short. Mr. Lin Yao, your actions in the Blackstone wasteland of the Huaxia region in Era of the Divine Realms have been listed as a key sample by the Reality Synchronization Observation Group. The public account system, Obsidian Flag temporary military order, and Outer Wall seal event established by Obsidian Village inside the game have all shown low percentage reality synchronization signs. We hope to establish limited cooperation with you. Cooperation contents. 1. Provide synchronization data reports. 2. Accept non-invasive reality testing. 3. Assist in observing Lord-type synchronization abilities. Return. 1. Real-world protection. 2. Equipment resources. 3. Partial official level intelligence. Please reply within 24 hours. Warning: do not publish this email on ordinary internet platforms. The email had no signature, no institution name, no contact phone number. Only a string of encrypted communication code at the very bottom. After Lin Yao finished reading, his first reaction was not fear. It was confirming two things. First, there were indeed people in reality systematically observing synchronization phenomena. Second, Obsidian Village was not the only sample, but it was very likely an extremely special sample among Lord-type synchronization cases. The other party mentioned Lord-type synchronization abilities. That meant they had already classified player synchronization. Hero type, Lord type. Perhaps there were also craftsman type, mage type, faith type, summoning type. They might even already have more detailed cases than the forums. Lin Yao did not reply. He first sent Shen Hao a message. Do not mention my real identity, Obsidian Village, or synchronization abilities over phone calls or ordinary chat. Shen Hao replied quickly. Something happened? Lin Yao replied. Someone found my real identity. Shen Hao was silent for several seconds. Damn. Official side? Uncertain. Should we call the police? Lin Yao looked at the words real-world protection in the email. Not for now. Calling the police would be useless. If the other party was an official or quasi-official organization, calling the police would be walking straight into the net. If the other party was a financial group or hidden family, ordinary police involvement would be even less useful. The most important thing right now was not to expose more information in a panic. Lin Yao organized the email content into an offline note. Then he logged back into Era of the Divine Realms. He needed to confirm one thing inside the game: whether any other force showed signs of knowing his real identity. After he logged in, Obsidian Village was already in daytime. The village was carrying out reorganization after the Outer Wall exploration. In front of the military grain warehouse, Elder Zhou was recording the expenses and gains from the Outer Wall mission. In front of the assault camp, Gao Mu was inspecting Zhao Tai's injuries and the others' injuries. Inside the medicine shed, Guan and Bai Ji were processing the black tide contamination sample together. This was something Lin Yao had deliberately brought back. Black tide remnant sample. Status: sealed. Use: researches black tide contamination characteristics. Warning: do not keep it near the Lord Stone Steel, military grain warehouse, or Obsidian Flag for a long period. Lin Yao's first action was to move the sample into a temporary sealed pit outside the village. Guan strongly agreed. This thing cannot be kept inside the village. Bai Ji looked at the black mist sealed inside the black stone box, and her expression was somewhat ugly. When I get close to it, I feel hungry. Lin Yao looked at her. Hungry? Bai Ji nodded. Not stomach hunger. It is wanting to swallow things. Medicinal herbs, talisman water, even the aura of the people nearby. Guan looked grave. The black tide is not ordinary resentment. It is like a disease that can devour order in life. Lin Yao's heart sank further. If the black tide synchronized with reality, the consequences would be extremely serious. Skill synchronization would at most create supernatural individuals. Black tide synchronization might create contamination sources. He asked Guan, "Can we research a way to counter it?" Guan said, "From what we can see now, 3 things are effective. First, clear military orders. Second, rosters. Third, pacifying the dead and the concept of public accounts." Baiji could not help asking, "Public accounts can counter the black tide too?" Guan looked at her. The black tide is chaotic, nameless, without accounts, and without order. Public accounts give things a source, a destination, and responsibility. That itself is a kind of countermeasure. Baiji seemed to understand, yet not fully. But Lin Yao understood. The systems Obsidian Village had been building all this time were not only management tools. Against chaotic contamination like the black tide, they naturally had a restraining effect. In other words, the underlying logic of the first season's main quest was already very clear. The black tide represented namelessness, disorder, and devouring. Obsidian Village represented names, accounts, flags, and responsibility. This was not a simple opposition of good and evil. It was a confrontation between order and chaos. Just as Lin Yao was thinking, Su Qingli arrived. This time, she did not bring her guard. She only stood outside the trading area, waiting for Lin Yao's permission. Lin Yao walked over. "What is it?" Su Qingli looked at him. "Did you receive a message in reality?" Lin Yao's gaze instantly turned cold. Zhao Tai sensed that the atmosphere was wrong and immediately gripped his saber. Su Qingli did not panic. She said in a low voice, "It was not me who investigated you." Lin Yao did not speak. Su Qingli continued, "Someone inside the Su family also received a similar invitation. The Reality Observation Project." Lin Yao looked at her. After a moment, he asked, "Who sent it?" Su Qingli shook her head. "Not certain. But most likely, it is not a single financial group. It also does not completely resemble the official side. It is more like an observation network jointly formed by several hidden forces, some official research departments, and the technical side that had early contact with Era of the Divine Realms." Hidden forces. Official research departments. The technical side. This answer fit Lin Yao's suspicions. Su Qingli said, "You are very dangerous right now. Because Obsidian Village is not an ordinary territory. The public account system and the Obsidian Flag have already begun synchronizing with reality. Lord-type synchronization abilities will draw more high-level attention than ordinary combat skills." Lin Yao asked in return, "What does the Su family want?" "Cooperation." "In reality or in the game?" "Both." Su Qingli was very direct. "The Su family can temporarily avoid investigating your real-world location. We can also block some unnecessary probes for you. But we hope that when Obsidian Village repairs the War Soul altar in the future, the Su family will have observation and transcription rights." Lin Yao sneered. "You are still negotiating conditions at a time like this?" Su Qingli answered calmly, "Precisely because it is a time like this, the conditions must be stated clearly. If they are not stated clearly, you will not trust us." She was right. Lin Yao disliked cooperation that came in the name of protection but refused to state the price even more. At least Su Qingli had always made it very clear. The Su family wanted intelligence. Lin Yao asked, "Can the observation project be refused?" Su Qingli answered, "Yes." "The consequences?" "You will be marked as a non-cooperative sample." "And then?" "There will be more probes." Lin Yao looked at her. "Real-world probes?" Su Qingli nodded. "Including, but not limited to, equipment supply, network monitoring, in-game faction contact, real-world invitations, and even identity tracing." Zhao Tai did not fully understand, but he sensed that this was a threat. Lin Yao fell silent. His greatest weakness right now was not in the game. It was in reality. No matter how strong Obsidian Village became, he himself was still living in a rental apartment. No bodyguards. No financial group. No official background. Once his real identity was exposed, his leadership inside the game could also be threatened from the outside. Su Qingli said, "You do not need to agree to the observation project right now. But you need a real-world buffer. The Su family can provide it." Lin Yao looked at her. "Record the price first." "Fine. But the War Soul Altar observation rights are not granted now. We will discuss them after Obsidian Village confirms the Su family has not crossed the line in reality." Su Qingli nodded. Accepted. This was only a preliminary understanding. It was not a formal alliance. But for Lin Yao right now, this buffer was necessary. Before Su Qingli left, she said one more thing. "The Shen family also knows about the observation project. Shen Xianzhou himself may not make a move against you. But others inside the Shen family might." Lin Yao thought of He Jin. The Shen family was indeed not a single piece of iron. At dusk, Shen Xianzhou also sent a message. "Shen Xianzhou, has someone contacted you on the real-world side?" Lin Yao did not answer. Shen Xianzhou sent another message. "Do not misunderstand. It was not the Shen family. At least, not my branch." Lin Yao replied. "How many branches does the Shen family have?" Shen Xianzhou replied very quickly. "Enough to give people headaches." Lin Yao looked at that sentence and did not reply again. The real-world situation was beginning to surface. Officials, financial groups, old families, technical parties, and the observation project. The Blackstone wasteland inside the game was only the first battlefield. Reality was the larger chessboard. And the first real-world force to set its eyes on him had already knocked on the door.